Speed to Sear is an 80-year-old mountain man from Montana. He's lived off-grid, guided and hunted for over 60 years. He's an instructor to hundreds of guide school students, myself included. This is our fireside chat as we discuss hunting, guiding, his story of getting struck by lightning, his life before and after him being saved. We chat about his marriage, the loss of his son, and his walk with the Lord.
You come in a canyon like this just about daylight, and you'd be walking, hiking into here or whatever, and you'd bugle, and sometimes this whole canyon would just there'd just be bulls everywhere. It was great. And they're still here, but not like they were, but everything changes.
How many years have you hunted elk?
I'm 80 years old, and I guess I started when I was just a kid, and then I got really serious with it when I turned 21. I got out of the Marine Corps. I went in when I was 17, and I turned 21, and I got really serious about it then. I hunted every year from that day on. So I'm 80, so what is that?
60.
59 years, 60 years, yeah, I've hunted elk for 60 years. And when I first started, there was no archery season. I mean, it just wasn't, And so, but it didn't make us no difference because there wasn't that many hunters in them days to start off with. And the season would start in the end of September, and the elk were very vocal. And they would bugle and just screaming. I mean, and it was easy. It was relatively easy to call them in. And me and my brother-in-law Tim and Jeff, I don't know of many people that voice bugle or bugle. Some of them have little tube things they blow through and go woo, 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 and stuff like that. But we started off really trying to work bulls and going through all of our scenarios and stuff like that. And we'd go up in rifle season, and in 2 days we'd be elked out. I mean, every year. I'm talking about, you ask my wife, me and my wife first got married, we'd take off for 2 weeks. We'd take 2 weeks off of wherever we was doing. We'd be done in 2 days. But then we'd go bear hunting with the dogs wherever. In the state of Idaho at that time, your elk season opened up in different areas, And so in any area that didn't have the elk hunt or the deer hunt going, you could run your dogs on bears. And so you're talking about into September, the bears are still walking. And so we get done, boom, we'd break camp, we'd take the meat down, we'd hang it in coolers, and we'd head out and we'd start running the dogs. And it was just a good time, And we'd go grouse hunting too, and we'd go out and look for a big buck. But we always wanted to save that until the rut. And we basically hunted whitetails, and so we liked the whitetail rut. I heard smoke follows beauty, but I think that's a lie.
Amen.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Here it is.
Oh yeah, it's hitting me pretty good. So what's your favorite animal to hunt and why?
Well, there's different scenarios to this. With my dogs, the favorite animal to hunt for me was bears. And it was always exciting. Bears bait up. Mountain lions were okay, but you find the track, that's a big deal. You go out there and if it's a hot track, 200-300 yards, they're usually treed, and you walk to the tree. Now bears is a whole different program. They'd be fighting the dogs on the ground, and it was real exciting to me to get in there and follow my dogs and try to sneak in on that bear, and he'd be fighting with the dogs, and then he'd win you and he'd run and stuff like that, and you're right there with all the drama and all the excitement. The dogs are just screaming, and I remember, I mean, it really was neat. But listening to the dogs too, and barking, even in a canyon when you're just standing up there listening to them, you know, and being able to, that's my dog, that's so-and-so dog, and then you have somebody else's. Now they got these things, and these guys drive me nuts when I first started hunting with them, you know, and this stuff. But they got this here tracker system. And they're all sitting there like a young kid with a cell phone. They're all looking at their trackers. Oh yeah, I see Jojo. We used to listen to him, and we knew who was doing what and who was doing that. And that was, to me, was more exciting than looking at a tracker, you know. But anyway, but trackers are real handy with, and I will say this right now, with the wolves and the problems around here, you got to get to your dogs a lot quicker. And the trackers made a lot quicker. Because when a race would take off before tracking systems, we either try to follow them on foot, which that's pretty hard to do when a bear starts running and dogs are running. We'd run bears as far as 20 miles, you know, and that's gospel. And you know, and so the way it would work, Donnie would go that way and I go this way on the roads that we were able to use in trying to keep up with the race. We didn't even have CBs then. Boy, it was a great new invention when we got CBs, and then we could communicate back and forth. But I would say for the dogs, running bear. I love, and then you can go back to bird hunting. I just love bird hunting with a dog again, and type thing, you know, and duck hunting and stuff like that. And I love calling elk. Now, to go get my elk and deer is making meat, and that to me is very, very important. When I growed up, that was the whole essence of everything. We hunted to make meat. It wasn't anything about who killed the biggest buck or who did this, or you never hear anybody say, "Oh yeah, I seen a 340 bull." You never hear nobody ever say that. Nobody cared. My cousin Tony, if it was far back in, he just left the horns in the woods. He could care less, you know. And so that's the way it was. I'm up there to make meat, and that's what I do. But a lot of people enjoy trophy hunting, and I understand that. I hunt a lot of trophy hunters, and they enjoy their sport, and I just think it's great. But I realistically am not a trophy hunter myself, you know. But I've taken some big animals, you know. And everything good comes from God. I'll get back to that now. And he's always, we've always had elk meat in the freezer, and we've always had deer meat in the freezer. We've had antelope meat in the freezer. We have ducks and grouse and stuff like that. And so God's always blessed us, you know.
From your perception, what's the real marrow of hunting? What is it that really truly matters? You know, I know you'll say not the scores and all that stuff. What is it that's most valuable? Making meat.
I mean, that to me is the whole issue. Making meat. I mean, you trap to what? To that you like to trap, but also to make money. And so you can do that. You can trap bobcats or coyotes or whatever. Not that them things don't need to be trapped and kept in proportion. Otherwise, we have a problem. But the whole answer of trapping is to make money. That's where trapping started, you know, and stuff like that. And that helps to keep the predator count down. It's like running mountain lions with bears and running bears and hunting bears and etc. like that. When we start protecting the predators to a point that is starting to hurt the other animal life, the prey, we need to readjust that. And then what happens now? All of a sudden, everybody says, "Well, we gotta protect the predators," and they're protecting the predators, the wolves, the mountain lions, everything else, and they should be to a certain extent. We don't want to have anything go extinct, but at the same time, we got to keep them leveled out to where the prey as well is doing well. But the whole essence of hunting, to me, and then when I was brought up, was to make meat. And if you talk to most doctors, they'll tell you that wild meat like deer, elk, you name it, antelope stuff is better for you than beef that's made in the modern market. So what's wrong with that? That's why I like to do it. A lot of families that live in these mountains and grew up in the mountains, that's why they really hunt. It isn't the fact that they want big horns or that they want big elk all the time. It's the fact that they're trying to make meat. And there are people that sport hunt, and I understand that. And I hunted a lot of guys that wanted trophy bulls and trophy thing, and I passed up this bull, and that's their option, you know. But they're still enjoying the interest of hunting, and I think that's important because if we don't have hunters in the woods, pretty soon there's a certain group of people in the world who will take it away from us. And so I think that's so important.
So can you take us through the story where you got struck by lightning?
Me and my client, we were up at the head of what they call Wills Creek, and we were up there for a 3-day hunt, which, in other words, we were staying in there in a gypsy camp that we was in, which was basically a tarp with a stretch out, and the tarp is laid out like a small tent and logs on each side and tied to, and with brown cloth and stuff like this. And he had shot at a bull and missed it more or less. And so we went and looked to make sure, and we did that. And that night, a lightning storm could come in. And we were already under our tarps and in our sleeping bags. And the lightning, and we were talking to the doctors and stuff, the lightning coming down was ground lightning. It hit the ground and it hit both of us. It knocked me down the hill. It felt like it blowed off my legs, and I was rolling down the hill screaming. It was lightning and raining and everything else. And then everything went numb, and I was just laying there, you know, and it was lightning. And I crawled back up to the shelter in the middle of the night, and I'm hollering at this guy, and he's not answering me. And so I thought, oh man, I hope he's all right, but he never answered me. And so I laid there, and finally I found my flashlight, and I looked at my legs, and my legs were still there. And so I thought, well, my legs are still there, you know, because it felt like it, you know. I laid there and said, God, just let me die, you know, when I was laying down on the bottom. And pretty soon he said something. He said, Speed? I said, what? And he says, I can't see. I said, what? And he says, I can't see. I said, look it, I'll help you. So I got up there and I got him up and got him around, and his face was just beet red, and his long johns was melted to his chest. And so I tried to get him comfortable, and after a bit he says, hey, I can see. He said, but my right eye really hurts. And his face was really red, and I said, I want you to just lay here comfortably, and we're way back in, so I got this radio. I'd go out there and I'd put the radio up in the air and I'd holler for the lodge. And about that time, boom, boom, there'd be lightning. I'd go right back and get back in the shelter. And besides that, nobody was answering at the lodge anyway. So finally, after a while, he got more strength in, and I kept checking on him and helping him and trying to get him well. So I built a great big fire, had a fire pit like this. We had a big fire going. And the rain quit, and the lightning quit, and he wanted to get up, and we got up. He drank water, and I drank water, and he urinated, and I urinated, which was, I didn't know at the time, but was important, that the system was still working. I didn't realize I got hit in the shoulder, and it come out my calf, and I had a big, like, I had a hole right there, and then it, like, black lines were coming up my leg and stuff. So anyway, we finally I got hold of the lodge and told them, hey, we had a problem here, and Jerry was having a little hard time really understanding what I was talking about, I think. And finally I got irritated, and I said, look at Jerry, I said, I ain't just yakking at you. We got hit by lightning, me and my client both, and we're both, you know, I got hit and he's got hit and he can't hardly see in one eye, and et cetera, and his long johns. Oh, he says, and I said, you need to come get us. He says, okay, well, what is the best way for you? Well, I could have went down out of Wilkes Creek, but I didn't want to go down and have to climb back out. And there was a Highline trail that went along, and it was a little bit further, but it wasn't, it just kind of rolling. And there was a road system that came up there, and the trail crossed that. And so we're going to come out that way. We're going to leave everything here. Okay. And he still didn't, Jerry was, well, what's he all excited about, And so we headed out, and I carried his pack, and I had my stuff and too, our personal stuff, and and he wanted to carry his bow, so he took his bow, and I had my bugle, and we're walking out, and we're about 2/3 of the way out, and I just had an urge, and I do that, and I bugled, and this bull just cranked on me. And I looked at him, I goes, no, we're going to keep going. I was thinking, I wish I would have never done that before, He said, yeah, you're right. When we got to the road, Jerry was there with Nick.
It's daylight now?
It's daylight. Oh, yeah, we didn't move until daylight. When I got there, they were waiting, and they're standing there, and we come walking out of the woods. They said we smelt like a burnt out breaker box. I said, man, and then they could see his long johns and everything else. But now Jerry got excited. And they got us in the rig and took us to the doctor's office, and the doctor went through a bunch of stuff and did a whole bunch of tests and wanted to know if we did this, and did we urinate, and did we do that and stuff, and so they did a lot of testing. So they advised us not to hit the bush, so the rest of the week me and him drove around, road hunted and stuff like that, and we didn't leave till like 9 in the morning and stuff, and he did lose partial eyesight out of that eye. And so,
you think it had any long-term effect on you, or?
It had a long-term effect on me as far as lightning. I tell you, I was in the back country one time and sleeping on the ground type thing, and all of a sudden it's about midnight, and all of a sudden I heard him start to rumble. And that started to make me nervous. Then I heard lightning. I ran another 3 miles or whatever it was, all the way out there to the van, and I got in the van and slept in the van. And so, I had been out there in a lot of lightning storms and never bothered me. So I just about got over that, and we went to Madison to do an environmental impact with horses and camping in the back country. We got out there and we turned all the horses loose to graze except 2. One was mine, and they were hobbled. And this storm could come over the mountain, it was hailing and the lightning again. I'm in my Snowy River coat and my Western hat like, I used to wear and stuff. And I'm sitting down there like that, and it's hailing, and I'm lightning all over me, and I'm going, oh, this is, I'm really not in a good mood about this. It gets all done, I looks over, and there's my horse laying stone dead. Lightning hit him and killed him. And of course, everybody else, we was talking about that for some reason, about the thing somebody brought up the subject about getting hit by lightning. Everybody just separated from me. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to be around you, see? And I said, well. So I told them I'd walk out, and they said, no, you're not walking out. We'll take one of these pack horses and ride it out. So anyway.
That's pretty unlucky.
Yeah.
What did you enjoy most about instructing at the guide school?
Well, I always enjoyed teaching. I taught American Red Cross, and I taught for 15 years, and bow hunter education for 15 years, guide school for 20 years, stuff like that. I taught in the church and I always liked teaching. But I just liked watching these young people and their enthusiasm and them wanting to be part of something that I really believed in, and I really believed in guiding. I thought a professional guide should be a professional guide, and so I think that was really important. And the biggest thing you want to teach them, in other words, we need professional guides out there that have ethics, hunting ethics, all this kind of stuff, and also are there to take care of their clients. And I wanted to teach that. I wanted to teach them that your first responsibility, you want to teach them how to cape heads and how to blood trail and how to build fires and survive, but you want to teach them that your whole number one objective is to keep your clients safe and give them a great experience out there in an environment that you love, and et cetera, et cetera. And so that's why, that's probably the greatest. I love guide school, and the time we had around the fires and all the young guys and stuff, and we even had women come to it, and they would talk about home and their hunting experiences and about their grandparents and stuff like this, and it was exciting. And because it was a public school, I was able to even bring up the gospel. And I could bring up the gospel, and I'll talk about how I felt about creation and God and stuff like this too. And I mean, I didn't really hold a Bible study, but I was hoping that them answers would be in the guys' school. And also just to keep the industry profitable. I went. We was trying to get MOGA, which is the Montana Outfitters and Guides Association, to make apprentice guides that had to have a certain amount of time in there and a certain amount of schooling to actually become a professional guide, instead of just hiring somebody because they say they know how to hunt. You see what I'm saying? Because that's not what it's all about. So I wanted to pass that on to young guys, because I thought that was really important for the industry as well as everything else. And so I guess that's why mine's the most important thing, that's for sure.
After 25 years, when I look back at all the hunts that I've guided, I don't remember a single score. I don't remember how many times we shot. I remember how heavy some of the packs were, but what I remember most of each individual hunt is something that at the time, a specific thing or things that at the time seemed insignificant. Those memories might just be a conversation, or just some animal doing something, or a sunrise, or an airplane ride, or whatever it was. And I just want to encourage anybody out there that's interested in experiencing Alaska. It is a place to go with no agenda. It's a place to just go because you can no longer stand the thought of having not at least tried. When you get to that point where the fear of failure or not getting something is dwarfed by the fear of never realizing your dream, you're ready. You're ready to experience the wilderness, to be immersed in it and receive whatever it is. That's when the life-changing aspect of being in the wilderness is going to take place. When you want to go there, experience it, win, lose, or draw, I guarantee you will not regret that you went and experienced Alaska for yourself. You know, so you talk about you lost your son when he was 17, is that right?
Yeah.
And, you know, we were talking earlier this morning about how, you know, in the end, that solidified your faith, you know, or that you found you were broken, and you know, you're talking about how you just prayed to God you needed rest, you had a funeral to plan. I mean, I can't fathom that. And I mean, how could a person, like, how could you? I mean, like, not only would that be undeniably hard for anybody, but for it to even be possible, it's one of those things like, Can you explain that? Like, was there a point or a certain thing or a time that just came of? I'm suspecting there's some sort of like deeper level of surrender or trust. You know, I think of Peter, like when he said, "Lord, you have the words of eternal life. To whom shall we go?" Like, how could you ever come out of that and say, "I'll praise you anyways, Lord"? You know,
I'll tell you, Sean, we buried Sean, and then it was in September. That's the only thing I remember. I don't know what day it was. I don't even know what year it was. And I never really wanted to know it. So I said to Sharon, I said, I got to go up in the bush for a while. And so I went up archery hunting right after this happened. And the funeral thing was done and stuff. And I got up there and I actually bugled a bull in. And I just couldn't shoot it. And I was really hurting then. And I remember that. I was up on the mountain. And I walked over and there was a big rocky cliff and I just sat on the edge of that rocky cliff and looking down like I almost just wanted to fall off that cliff. And just and then all of a sudden everything I started realizing that I can't do this without God. I cannot get this done without God. I got to trust Him. We got 2 other boys and we got another young man that relies on us and that we've been raising John and all of it. And my wife, the misery that I've got going through here with Sean, I don't want to put her through that or my boys or anything else. And I realized I can't do this without God. And so I just got to grab hold of God and just hold on. And I went and got back in my truck and drove home and started moving forward. That was it.
Like one day? Like
yeah,
just
one day.
Wow.
But then that got me going to Bible school. I went for 7 years and graduated in 3.5, but I loved it so much I went 3.5 more. So all that was a building thing from when all things work for the good of them love Him. And if you submit to the Spirit of God and stuff like that, you know, God will just keep you moving forward. And if you want to be used by God, God will use you. He wants to use you. But you have to be wanting to use Him too. And sometimes if you think you don't want Him to use you, He might make you. He chastens them who He loveth, and so I think that's important too. But the loss of Sean was hard, but without God, it would have been a lot harder. And I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and that is talking about our circumstances in life. It talks about every situation we need, and no matter what is happening in our life, we need to trust and rely on God. The word believe is trust and rely in the Greek. And so when it says in John 3:6, for God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son, whosoever believeth on Him, and that's what He's saying. In other words, He's saying, whosoever trusts and relies on Him, yep, on Jesus, will have everlasting life.
Yep, I look at that verse as like a map.
Yeah.
A lot of people believe the map is true,
right,
but it doesn't mean they follow it.
No.
And I think that is the most dangerous verse in the Bible, because so many people are like, yeah, well, okay, I'll say I guess I believe. That's all I got to do. Yeah, there's a whole lot more. That book's a lot bigger than John 3:16.
Yeah, my brother-in-law Leon, maybe 2 years before that, we lived up there in Hauser Creek. And he walked out and I was outside and he said, Speed, I got to ask you a question. I said, what's that? And he said, do you believe in Jesus Christ? I said, oh yeah, I believe in that. I believe in Jesus and God and stuff. I didn't even know what he's talking about, but I did believe. I believed in God. I told you before that when I was a child, my grandma took me to Sunday school all the time, so I knew there was a God, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what it meant to trust and rely on God, because I trusted and relied in me. And so that all had to change. And So it was, that circumstance come in my life, and it was a tragedy. And because I trusted and relied on God, God pulled me through it and opened up other doors and other situations. And I mean, you know, when I loved hunting from the time when I was a kid. I loved hunting. I'd go out hunting by myself, and had an old 308 lever action Savage. I bought it from a sporting goods store, and I could pay so much a month on it. You lay them away, and then the layaway days. So when I was a kid and I was working, and so I'd pay them $10, 10, and I finally owned the thing. And I always loved it. But before I submitted to God, I loved hunting was my God.
Yeah.
Everything was about my hunting. Everything I thought, I did, I talked about, I dreamed about was hunting. I want to hunt. I want to hunt. I want to hunt. And every season. And unfortunately, it didn't really mean that I was the greatest law-abiding citizen in the world either. But that's a different subject. But anyway, but I loved hunting. When I got saved, that became traumatic. And so all of a sudden I realized, God tells me to love thy Lord thy God with all my heart and all my mind and all my soul, and I do. But that makes him number one. And then my family is where he says love your neighbor as yourself. And that is part of my family too. And so my family is more important than what I want. And so is everything else. And these people that are lost and struggling, and they're on drugs, and they're doing a lot of stupid stuff I used to do, I can't look down on them. I don't like what they're doing, but I didn't like it when I did it, and probably a lot of people hated it when I was doing it. But I need to love them. I should love them enough to care that they don't go to hell. And so I think that's important. When I went in the Marine Corps, that whole prospect changed, and I, that was a shock to my soul. Even though I'd been on my own probably since I was about 15, anyway, and working and stuff like that, and I got in trouble, and I ended up in the Marine Corps because the judge thought it would be a good idea that I joined the military. And so I went in the Marine Corps, and so it's what it was, But
Was the judge right?
yeah, it gave me a lot of work ethics, and I'm not bragging about it, but I've always liked to work, and so anybody that knows me, that's been around me, knows that I'm not afraid of work, and I like working. I like the fellowship of working. I like going out there working, guiding, and I love out there building houses, and I love working in the sawmills, and I like the camaraderie of it, and I looked excited a lot of times. Sometimes I wasn't all that happy to go to work because I couldn't go hunting, maybe, but I always liked to work, and so that's and if nothing else. But the thing that really changed my life was my wife. But then she was the start of it, and then when I got saved, Jesus Christ, and that was it. He really changed my life. Mostly God, but of course my wife was a God-fearing woman anyway. I don't know why she married a heathen like me, but maybe God thought that I needed it, I guess.
Oh, well, I fell quickly and hard in love with him. And he did, I loved hunting and being outdoors. And so his lifestyle really didn't bother me. Um, maybe was gone a little much you know, but I knew that was him. And you don't marry somebody to change them, you know. And I was busy, had our boys, and I worked. So it really didn't bother me. It probably bothered my folks more than me, you know. And I would go to church, and he would never tell me no, you know. He wouldn't go with me yet. Then when we got over here, and I came home, and that made him pretty special in my eyes, that he would bring me back home to where I graduated and my folks were and stuff. And then the Lord just worked in our lives and put Steve there with him on the job, and he bonded with him. And I started hunting, and he would read the Bible because they shut the mill down, and he would do his nightly checks, and then he would read the Bible. And he would come home, and I would be asleep, and he'd come home, "Do you know what I read?" And it's like, "What?" Yeah. And a couple of it was kind of like, "No, I don't think you read that right." But we worked it out. And one of my, I think it was Leon, came, and I called him, and I said, "Speed got saved." He says, "Well, I knew he would." He says, "I've been praying that way." And it's been really special ever since to see him. It was kind of like a light bulb come on. It was amazing. And a little bit of my history is I was saved when I was 18, and did not really live a Christian life until he got saved, you know. And so it's been a blessing ever since. And when we came to Trout Creek and joined that church, and we rededicated our lives to Christ, to service to Christ. And I can't hardly say that without tearing up. That was special. And
Powerful, even though you were a believer before him, he still led you spiritually.
yeah, yeah, when he started, that's all it took, you know. I don't know how long it was before we started that fellowship and stuff until he was saved, you know. But God all worked it out. He always is on time and has a perfect plan. So, well, I would like to say that don't marry him and think you're going to change him. And as you grow together, make him your best friend, you know, and don't give more than you get, I guess. You know, that's important. And, well, I did this for you, so you should do this for me. Don't count that. That doesn't equate. God says give and give, and he blesses you for that. And sure, I get Irish and I get short and that, but it all works out.
Yeah, and don't just give. I mean, take. You got to give too. And so that's really important. But get right down to it, it's really hard to work it out right without God. That's what it is, you know. And it's so same. But at the same time, if you are unevenly yoked, the big thing you want to do is just keep praying for that person. That's what you need to do. You got to keep praying for them, and you don't want to browbeat them or anything like that. But you have to be an example, but you have to be a loving example. And that's what my wife did. My wife, when I married Sharon, I was I don't need to go into that, but I was a very bad person in a lot of aspects. And I thought I was all right. But when I married her, I felt this is the best thing I'll ever get, and I better not blow it. And so I was very careful on that aspect of her. And so I was very careful not to make her mad, except once. She threw the keys at me. And that really stunned me, and I thought, this has got to quit. And that has something to do with me quitting drinking altogether too at one time. So then that was it. I haven't had a drink since 1980, and I don't even want to drink anymore. And if you're going to get married, don't get married over infatuation and stuff like that.
Be sure you like the person, know the person.
Got to have a soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So anyway, yeah, we've been married going 48 years, and I've been saved since 1980, and I'm never going back on that, and I'm never going back on my marriage either. Period.
I told him one time, I said, she can have you as soon as she digs you up. Else,
I told her this guy I knew, he got a divorce from his wife and married this young gal and this and that. And I said, what do you think of that? And she says, well, you could do that too, but if you do, she'll have to dig you up to get you. So I kind of understood. And I knew how good a shot my wife was. So, so that was it. So,
Your most cherished moment with your wife?
well, there's so many of them, it's just unbelievable. But you want me to give you we was married 40 years. And we were married in a small Lutheran church, and only about 6 people there. And we redid our vows after 40 years, and the lakeside was packed.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and that
the church was packed.
So memorable to me that and I got up there and I looked at Sharon and I knew how much I really loved her. And that to me was the most memorable time I think it was.
Church was packed.
Church was packed.
We did our vows.
I felt so good about it. And then when we went to Hawaii, it was like our honeymoon. And me and Tommy and Carmen and Sharon went to Hawaii. We never had a honeymoon. And them 2 things were really, really, really important to me. And it always will be, that's what it is. And then one time she had a cow tag. And we knew where them cows were, remember, up at Orville's. And we drove along in the dark, it was still dark, and we could see all them elk out there, And so we went in, and we got in the timber, and we're sneaking across. And these cows are already, the elk are starting to move out of there. It was, a couple hundred yards or whatever.
It was quite a ways.
It was a ways. She leaned against that tree, and I told her, okay, take that cow. It stopped. She boom, and that thing just went like that, and boom. Holy smoke, I never forget that.
It was the gun did it. No, actually it was God did it. Yeah. Yep.
But we've had a lot of good hunts. The time she almost shot me with when I called that turkey in for. This turkey was coming at me, and I'm trying to hide, and I've been calling the turkey, and it's coming right here, and it's about from here to that wood pile from me, and it's still coming. I'm thinking, is she ever going to shoot? About that time, boom, and she shot it, and I jumped up, and it would hit the ground, and I grabbed it by the head when it come back up. That's how close it was.
I was waiting for a good shot.
But we've had a lot of good hunts. She's killed 5 bears, And the first date we went on, we went up there and she killed a bear and I packed it out, hung up in the tree, almost knocked me out of the tree and killed me, but we packed that out and so, yeah, she's been my, I probably, of all the guiding I did in the years, I really enjoy family and I really enjoy hunting with my wife. And I just talked to a friend of mine, Donnie Cooper, down in Orfino, Idaho, and they're still running hounds, Donnie and his boys and stuff. And he says, yeah, he says, well, he got a lab because he didn't want to chase them blue grouse down in the canyons and steep country. So he got a lab and it's working really well for him. And he says, yeah, I says, when me and Julie go hunting, she does all the shooting, I do all the driving. I said, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Good people.
Yeah.
Fun. Yep.
So anyway, I guess you put all in a nutshell is I can keep going on, but all 48 years have been ecstatic. You know, so what can I say? You know, everybody wants to do the health, wealth, and prosperity gospel, and that's not what it's about. It's about being a better person. It's being a godly person. It's doing what is right. It's being the hero. It's accomplishing stuff that only can be accomplished through God.
Yeah.
Only letting God perform in your life. And you know, and realizing no matter the circumstances, if you find your son laying in your pickup dead, that you got a God that will love you and grab hold of you and hold on to you. And that's more important than wealth and toys and prosperity and hunting trips and everything else in the world. And what's really neat is if you got a loving family, you got brethren, and I'm not talking about Sharon and the boys and all this. I'm talking or Tommy and Carl. I'm talking about brothers and sisters in the Lord. I mean, you can walk down the street and walk up to somebody and talk to them a minute, and the minute you realize this person is my brother or this person is my sister, and you can feel that. And sometimes I think we shortchange that. We got so many brothers and sisters and stuff like this, and some churches trying to hide themselves away from other churches, and I don't understand that unless if they have doctrinal issues and one of them is false teaching. Of course, we want to stay away from it. But when we have brothers and sisters who believe in the gospel and believe in the way that we believe and believe in what the truth says in Jesus Christ and in the Bible, we need to reach out. You know, we rebuilt this church, and all these people come from different Baptist churches all over the world, nation. Mm-hmm. And I never met so many nice people, and they were just immediately, oh, nice, and it felt so good to think people actually like me now, you know. And so, but they don't like me; they love me, and because they realize that I'm a child of God, and I tell you, it's that I could throw John 3:16 and all that stuff at somebody, but I tell you what, the peace that you get and the confidence that you get, and there is so much better life having Jesus in your life, you know, within you. Now, you might be sitting in prison because of things, and they might want to cut your head off. But I just look at this life. I'm 80 years old. How many more years do I really have? This is really a short trip of eternity. And that's what's really, really, really important. And so I want to spend eternity with God. I want to spend eternity with my brothers and sisters and children of God. And that there is reason enough for me. And so
Can I say something?
It's what it is. I don't know what more to say about it.
I have something to say.
Hmm?
I have something to say. I was just thinking, myself. It's like, well, a friend of mine just passed away, and I had talked to her. I said, "Are you a Christian?" "Oh, yeah, but I don't need to go to church. I'm fine." I said, "Oh, okay." And I thought, that's not enough. I need to say, do you really know what Christ did for us? I mean, he sent his son to die an awful death so that we could have eternal life. I said, and he asks so little of us, from us, to read, to fellowship, to obey his word, to become more like him. And what he's done for us, what he asks of us is like nothing. How much more simple can you put it? So I guess that would be my mantra for this next year, is to say, that's not enough. You need to have that fellowship. You need to make him Lord of your life, I guess. Anyway, I couldn't hold it in anymore.
When I left home in Turtle Lake, Wisconsin, Clayton was the next town. 5 miles away, I broke down and cried before I hit Clayton because I was scared. And made it through the Dakotas and went through Yellowstone, come up through Montana, and the closer I got, I knew I was getting close to Trout Creek. There was a nervousness about me, like, holy smokes, I'm actually doing this. Can I do this? And some of those same fears, not really to the same degree, because I believe I walked through so many of those obstacles and fears and insecurities, but it is kind of similar now in that I had no idea where I was going. I knew I wanted to go to Alaska. I half-heartedly believed I'd actually get there. But it's a similar journey now. But what I found in the Alaskan wilderness, that in order to find your true strength, you've got to come to the end of yourself. And Scripture says that when we are weak, he is strong. And that's confirmed from Tommy Speed here on this story. When they came to the end of themselves, all the things that I can do this, because I built a lot of confidence, get 10, 15 years as an Alaskan guide, and all of a sudden you start getting a little bit of recognition, and you kind of know what you're doing, things kind of fall into place, and man, that's a pretty good feeling, right? And then all of a sudden the body starts breaking down, and things are a lot harder than they used to be, and you scratch your head a little bit, and you start looking around you, and you realize, holy smokes, I can't keep this up. To go through that process, as painful and hard as it is, and nobody really wants to do it, but it's just like one of those swamps in Alaska that you gotta trudge through. There's nobody that can help you through it in a physical sense. And when you get to the end of what you can do on your own, and you surrender yourself, and you truly repent and realize your own brokenness, your sin, your selfishness, your pride, your ego, and you let that go, and finally just surrender to God and just humbly tell him, I'll go wherever you want me to go. I'll do whatever you want me to do. And the title, Trust the Guide, the title just, when I thought about, okay, all right, God, I'm doing it. I'll do whatever you want to do. And I knew what he wanted me to do, and that was go into ministry. And I just said, what would I call it? Trust the Guide was there just like that. And that's exactly, I can think of no better way to describe it. It's just like, yeah, my plan is, just like a hunting trip, my plan is to go this direction. But as soon as the wind changes, you got to alter your course. And that is a beautiful thing. And if I learned anything from Speed and Tommy, it's just that. You got to watch the wind. And the Bible says that the Spirit is like the wind. You don't know which way it blows. And Scripture says, who are we to make plans and to say that we'll go into such and such a place and we'll make money and we'll make a living for ourselves? Who are we to say that? Yeah, we can often do that in a physical sense, but in the end of that is nothing. Apart from Him, we can do nothing. Our life is but a vapor. And look at what I'm able to do. The people that I'm able to spend time with. The places that God has blessed me to see, and the people that He's brought into my life. It's more than any one man deserves. And what's funny is, just like what Tommy said, if you obey Him, the blessings will just keep coming. And it almost seems unfair. But how simple is that? And even yet, I'll be the first to admit, there's still work to be done. There's still things that I don't even really recognize necessarily. Undoubtedly, I'm not prideful enough to know that there's still going to be a fork in the canyon that I'm going to come to, and I'm going to want to go left, and God's going to be telling me to go right. And all I'm going to see is the waterfall or the fire or the rocks. And there's probably times where I'm going to go pick the wrong side. I'm not going to deny that. But I think that's the beauty of following Christ, is it absolutely is an adventure. And I've been around the world, and I believe it's the greatest adventure any of us are ever going to know. The greatest lessons can't be taught, they have to be experienced. You know, I'm older, I can't pack out the heavy loads that I used to, but my experience, my 25 years, I'm more valuable. I can find somebody that can schlep the heavy loads, right? But you can't replace that. And you can't hack that. And we live in this world where everybody wants a hack, right? They want to find a quicker, better way to do something. Yeah, that hack might help you now, but until you understand the foundational principles of that hack, it will never help you beyond that one instance. But once you know a business from the ground up, when you start digging the outhouse hole, and then you go and you start to, you guide and you fly, and you know the business in your industry from the ground up, holy smokes. At that point, you're indispensable.